the standoff that has happened between India and China in Ladakh since May last year has taken some small steps in a different direction, where for our viewers and attendees who may not know, the two sides have finally arrived at an agreement after 10 months to start pulling back the troops from certain sectors where there has been quite a bit of friction. So I'd like to start with you. We've got two eminent politicians from Arunachal as well. But just for the moment, I'd like to start with the Ladakh issue because of what the Defense Minister has said. General Bikram Singh, your reading of this, after all, we are dealing with the Chinese. Nothing can be taken for granted or at face value, but talks have been happening. As a military man, as a former Chief of Army Staff, how do you see this? It's 10 months since this whole thing began, and today we have a statement saying small steps have been taken towards a structural disengagement.
This is the fourth conclave that I'm attending. The first one I attended as the chief, and then three, after I superannuated. A very interesting, very contemporary, subject you've chosen. What has happened in Eastern Ladakh, to my way of thinking, is on account of the Indian government having taken up the gauntlet. Because in the past, we had been very timid with regard to China, and whenever Chinese came into our area, the issues were resolved essentially through diplomatic and military channels, and that continued. I think this is the first time after a very, very long time that we looked into the eyes of China and mobilized our resources to take on Chinese challenge. So given the fact that we have challenged Xi Jinping and his military, I think the costs were very high for Xi Jinping. So one of the reasons I feel at the strategic level is the strategic costs, the political costs, which Xi Jinping realized that should China continue with the stalemate, it will not augur well for its reputational, image. As far as reputational, I would say, accruals it has had so far. And it's already having a large number of countries which are peeved with its BRI projects and other projects, and the way it has been behaving through its expansionist policies. Now, coming on to the Eastern Ladakh, I feel we need to move ahead with cautious optimism. We cannot afford to take China at face value. We should continue. It's a good beginning, a good start, but I suppose we got to manage the risk at the strategic, operational, and tactical levels. Make sure that whatever we do, we are well poised in a manner that should the contingency arise, we are able to mobilize and again give a bloody nose, at least challenge the Chinese again. So that is important. And along with this, I personally feel we should continue with our other initiatives which are there to augment our combat power and to make sure we do not allow the Chinese to try this misadventure again as far as we are concerned.
General Singh, one of the reasons why people continue to be skeptical as far as such agreements is concerned is because these kinds of agreements have happened in the past, even in the last 10 months. Everyone remembers the Galwan flashpoint, the violence in which many soldiers on both sides died in action. Is there any reason to believe that things will be different this time, General? Because the last time also there was an agreement to pull back the troops, and then you had the Galwan flashpoint.
Shiv, I do not think we should look too much into this and take it as a very noble gesture on the part of Chinese. They have done it under duress, there's no doubt about it. But I do not, because they have a very poor track record. Look at the confidence building measures, look at the protocols. They have always actually dishonored these. If you see right from 1993 when the Peace and Tranquility Accord was signed, they've consistently dishonored the protocols and the confidence building measures. So given their poor track record, I think we need to be very cautious. The other thing which I feel is that the leadership of the PLA is very poor. Let me also bring out this aspect. And it's been actually proven there are a large number of studies that have been carried out by the United States. And I, being a graduate of the US Army War College, I am in touch with my professors over there who keep sending me a lot of material. And let me tell you that the Chinese leadership perhaps was under tremendous pressure. They could not have continued. Unlike our leadership, which is used to fighting in such hazardous conditions, in high altitude areas, extreme cold conditions, our people who have drawn blood, each leader, starting from an officer, JCO, NCO, and even our Jawans, they are accustomed to facing such privations on the battlefield. Chinese aren't. That has been another factor because Xi Jinping knows that should he try anything which is, he gets into an ugly situation, he is going to actually lose out badly. And therefore, given the fault lines in China, which are there on the domestic front, on the external front, I think it's the right thing that Xi Jinping has done. And let me tell you, this couldn't have come from the military. Given the very fact that this has continued for 10 months, the entire decision-making in this regard is being undertaken at the political level. So it's by Xi Jinping, he's taken this call to make sure that this engagement takes place. So from that point of view, I think we need to be cautious, move ahead, hope for the best, remain on guard, continue to generate intelligence. I'm using the word generate intelligence to be able to identify the intent of Chinese. That's very important.
Very interesting that nothing can be taken at face value. China has a terrible track record in keeping its promises. We've seen that even in its recent promises as far as the Ladakh situation is concerned. Tapirji, we will come to Arunachal in just a moment, but I want to ask you about your reading of what the Raksha Mantri said today in Parliament on this disengagement. General Singh says, cautious optimism, we can move forward with disengagement, but you can never trust the Chinese. You have had a first-hand experience with that as well, but how do you see what the Raksha Mantri has said?
First of all, I thank India Today that you have brought two leaders from Northeast, and that is also from Arunachal Pradesh.
From the beautiful state of Arunachal Pradesh.
Thank you. India has tested the Chinese from Nehru and Zhou Enlai, and today we are testing it with Modi ji and Jinping. Since Zhou Enlai and Nehru, we have tested all activities, whether it is economic point of view, whether it is military point of view, whether it is on their expansionist policy. Because I have visited that except Galwan, up to Demsok, Chushul, Pangong, I have visited every corner of all the places where we have got dispute. Right. When I was BJP General Secretary with Nitin Gadkari, we have a committee. I am one of the members there. So, what Modi ji has taken, the time taking, with diplomatically engaged, bilateral engagements, is the major policy that Xi Jinping have struck on the world today. So we have tested in Galwan, we have tested in Doglam. Today, the India Today has brought a good news, and I have personally here in Lok Sabha through television that Rajnath Singh ji has made the statement that the Indian PLA troops will back to Finger 8, and by virtue, India will also back on the 3 or 4 on that side. Yeah. So this is an example where India need to learn more to deal with the Chinese PLA, whether it is military point of view, whether it is economical point of view, and whether it is all aspects. We need to act what Modi ji's resistance has shown to the world today, that India can deal the PLA, India can deal the expansionist policy somewhere they strike on the world today.
Has a message been sent out to China, Mr. Herring? Do you think that with this disengagement coming after 10 months, has India tired out China? As the general said, was it because of India's strength and rigid position in these areas that the Chinese have finally been persuaded to speak about disengagement?
Jai Hind everyone. It's nice that you have taken up this topic. Really we needed a chance. Arunachal Pradesh needed a chance to highlight our issues also.
And I'm going to dedicate a full round of questions to Arunachal.
Now you have taken up the issue of the Honorable Raksha Mantri. Yes. I personally know him when I was a union minister. He was a member of parliament that time. And also after he took over as the Raksha Mantri, we had a lot of expectations from him. His statement in the Rajya Sabha that the Chinese and the Indian forces would come to a disengagement agreement, and it is nice. Of course, we have not got the Ministry of External Affairs or the other, a government release has not yet been made. It is just he has given assurance in the Rajya Sabha. But as you will come to the course of discussion in Arunachal Pradesh, and of course I'm not going to speak politics because I know my Chota Bhai will always allege me that तुम्हारा Congress में ऐसा
Yeah,
हुआ
no
वैसा
politics here. This is India
so
first.
he
as
will
far as
always say
Arunachal
that. I
Pradesh
know
is
he
concerned.
always says that. But the thing is that we have to shoulder responsibilities. Now, if I take back what is mine and leave what was mine, do you think that it is right? I don't know what General Vikram Singh will say. You had till finger 8. We were there till finger 8. So we are now come back to finger 3. And then we say, okay, we are in our position, you are in your position.
Okay. Since you've asked that specific question, General, would you like to take that, clear up that perception
You
or
should,
add to
you
that?
should.
That we are, there is always, you've heard Congress leaders in Parliament
Yes.
also say this before, that we are walking away from our own territory. So where is the victory
was
in
mine,
this?
I am leaving
What
it
have we
behind for
gained
some
from this?
years.
But let me also say that the Raksha Mantri in today's speech, sir, he said in the course of these discussions and negotiations with the Chinese, we have not lost anything. He said that very specifically. Yes, sir, General.
Yes, what Mr. Ehring has said, he has a point, but let's understand, the line of actual control is not something that is defined on the ground like the line of control with Pakistan. We have to understand that there are varying perceptions from both sides. That's number one. Number two, let me tell you, our patrols have been going to finger 8 and they have been coming towards finger 4 side in the past. In the lake, we got our speed boats. I was the chief that time when we got hold of them. We got state-of-the-art boats now in those areas. But we got to understand that the challenge that was given to us by the Chinese was in terms of coming in towards finger 4. Let's be very clear. They used to come and go back. In this particular case, they came and they did not go back. So therefore, it was a challenge. Now, the very fact that they are going back, it is on account of the leadership and on account of the political and military leadership. I have no hesitation in saying this. I'm sorry. I do not want to get, between the two political leaders. But I'm being very honest with you. I think kudos go to the political leadership of our country and to the military leadership. Let me tell you, it's been a very, very challenging assignment for the military leadership. And I think the way the Northern Army Commander, GOC 14 Corps have conducted themselves along with their subordinate commanders, it's been phenomenal. And Chinese would not have gone back if it was not a threat in being. It's a threat in being not just at the military level. It's a threat in being in terms of, as I said earlier, the image of China, the political costs that it would have been subjected to. Its upward trajectory of becoming a global power, a predominant power, and challenging the United States would have got derailed to a large extent. So Chinese, I think, have exercised wisdom in the backdrop of the kind of resistance that we have given, and that's the reason they have gone back.
There is a saying that is so true, and it really is borne out by what we've seen here. China, the only thing that China really respects is strength. And India has consistently spoken with strength. It had put the army at the front lines of the discussions. It was not the External Affairs Ministry, but the army which was actually leading the discussions. Ambassador Dogra, the Ministry of External Affairs was added to the mix as far as those discussions were concerned, which were happening in Chushul, Moldo, for the last couple of rounds. But how do you see this, sir? This was a lot of posturing that happened on both sides. It was an incredibly tense situation. Only General Bikram Singh will be able to tell us how tense, given that troops were just a few hundred meters away from each other. And even at that time, these talks were going on. The freeze came over Ladakh, but finally this breakthrough was somehow managed. How do you read it? How difficult must it have been to come to that solution? And it's not yet a solution, but tentative solution.
You use the word small steps twice. The defense minister has also used that. Then you use the word posturing. Now, posturing has had a tremendous effect. Whether we have a long-term strategy, that is the issue. But before I come to that, one thought which came to me as I was coming in from Delhi was that I should be prepared to answer Shiv's questions on aggression of China. this was the topic yesterday. This was continuing almost all through the evening on channels and so on. Suddenly, in one day, and this is a tremendous example of how one day can make a tremendous difference in diplomacy. From aggression of China, we are now talking about hope for peace. Now, which one is correct? Can Chinese turn around overnight and become doves from being eagles? I think the solution and the answer lies somewhere in between. Because in my view, they would not have committed the aggression in the summer or spring as was being feared. For a simple reason. As the general mentioned, our boys looked in their eyes and did not blink. So Galwan was the first challenge. It was followed by Nakula. Chinese had been used to getting their way, not just in Arunachal, as you reveal later, but also in South China Sea. Whichever island they wanted to, they went down there and grabbed it. So no one in the world, including America, if you read strategic documents from American strategic experts, they have gone to the extent of saying that in case a war breaks out between America and China, China would win. From that position to what has happened yesterday is a tremendous change. And that too, a change which has been directly supervised by President Xi. That's another point I wish to make, that sometimes we tell ourselves things which we like to believe. For example, in 2014, when President Xi came to Gujarat and then to Delhi, there was a Chinese ingression. And we kept saying, look, this chap is innocent.
Demchok.
Yeah. He didn't know some rogue general or army commander there has done this to embarrass him. But if you look at the history, 2013, a year after Xi took over as president of China, there was Depsan, which still continues to worry us. 2014 was in Chumar.
Yeah.
2018 was Doklam. 2020 was East Ladakh. All these were authorized personally by President Xi.
As General said, yeah.
So let us not give benefit of the doubt either to a particular leader or to a country, because China has been known never to give up the territory it has conquered. Yeah. And President Xi's mission, openly stated mission, is to take back all the territories that China has historically claimed. Whether that claim is right or wrong is a different thing. So come back to your point and answer whether this is a temporary phase or it is going to last. I don't think it is going to last. China has been embarrassed internationally by what it did in Ladakh and the kind of response it got. So it is a pause for it to think the cost that it has had to give for this action of its, because there are military costs and material costs also. They are also suffering in terms of finances and materials.
So, General Bikram Singh, away from the politics, about this ingress in parts of Arunachal Pradesh where construction has been happening, Tapaji in many ways has been a sort of lone voice, putting out these pictures and maps, showing people where the Chinese salami slicing has been taking place in Arunachal. Give us the military perspective of this. You've operated there, you've seen it for yourself as well, sir. Is there a certain helplessness there that India is demonstrating elsewhere, like in Ladakh? Is there something that we cannot do in Arunachal?
Yeah, Shiv, I think the audience needs to understand, there's a very old adage about the mountains, that mountains eat troops. They are like a bottomless barrel which keeps sucking in boots. There is never adequate resources in the mountains because every hill, every spur gives you challenges. It's got to be understood that it's a zero-sum game. The Indian Army, what it has, it's a zero-sum game. So you got to deploy that between our Western Front, Northern Front, keep reserves. I'm glad a decision has been taken at the strategic level of now converting one of the strike corps, which was on the Western Front, to a mountain strike corps. So the issue is of the resources. Number two, I must confess, since 1993, I won't hesitate in saying that there was a tendency to be slightly lackadaisical because we thought that peace and tranquility would continue. And with the signing of the Border Defense Cooperation Agreement of 2013, I was the chief that time, we found that a little bit of autonomy came to the army to deal with the situations on ground, which was not there before. Let me confirm that to you. I've been in the military operation as a colonel. In fact, we have Rahul Kamal, his father was with me as a colonel that time in the military operations. And we used to be working till 11 at night, and I'm sure he must be seeing his dad coming back at 12 o'clock at night. Because a little incident in Arunachal, or for that matter on the line of control or along the McMahon line, we used to have the MEA representatives coming over to the military operations and discussing with us. That's the kind of sensitivity we had, which has gone away. And thanks to the present government, and I would say even for that matter, during 2013, when the Border Defense Cooperation Agreement was signed, there was little amount of autonomy which came to the army. We could take decisions. We could react the way we had to.
So you didn't,
but the issue
didn't need to keep running to the MEA for any kind of action to be taken on the ground.
Yes, of course. It's a whole of government approach, because we're dealing with a neighbor. So the other point which I want to bring out, yes, Mr. Gao, you want to say something? Hanji. No.
Please continue, sir.
Achha. So what I'm saying is that given the fact that there is paucity of resources, we've got to take on certain places where we get deployed. Now we are going in for additional surveillance or generation capability, and I'm sure in times to come we'll be able to plug these gaps. We are going into more aerial resources, UAVs, helicopters. There is a focused commitment today of the government towards ensuring and enhancing our combat power. So with that, I think things are going to be improving over a period of time. Okay. The other thing I wish to clarify to the member parliament is that if there were 5 patrols of the Chinese along the line of control, I'm telling you as a former Eastern Army commander, we had at least 20 going over there. So it's not that, our people were sitting on the haunches that doing nothing. Let me tell you, we were responding equally well. There's an area which is the no man's land in the sense that their patrols come to the perceived line of the LAC. Our patrols go to the perceived line of LAC, and our patrols have been far more than what they've been actually undertaking. So there is perhaps, and I'll be very honest with you, I have no hesitation in saying this, that as an Eastern Army commander, as a chief, and before that I found that depending on which party is there, they tend to manipulate the Chinese aggressions to their advantage. And I'm sorry to both the political leaders who are seated here. You people have been exploiting this and manipulating it to your advantage.
The way we've been haunted by 1962 all these years, has that in some way been sorted out or exorcised by the strength we've displayed now? And can that shape our China policy going forward?
Yes, Shiv, I think the present government has turned the entire thing around. We were very timid. We were on the back foot vis-a-vis China. But I think our tail is up. The military's tail is up. They've done a stupendous job, as I said earlier. You talked about what should be our policy henceforth. And while Mr. Dogra has covered, just to add to it, I feel there should be 2 important, components of our strategy, hitherto strategy vis-a-vis China. One is of engagement, and the other is of deterrence. We must continue to engage at the political, diplomatic, military levels. Yet, we should not be off guard. And deterrence, when I say, it is carrying a big stick, which we must continue to develop in terms of our combat power. It must be visible, it must be seen, it must be supplemented by, a complementary, compatible information operations, psychological operations. And I think our media has done a great job. Let me compliment all the channels. You people have actually played a pivotal role in putting Chinese leadership on the back foot. And I think we need to be looking at China through all the diplomatic, political, economic, informational, military elements of national power to make sure it remains where it is. And the lesson that we have brought home to the Chinese, it must continue.
Ladakh, there is a disengagement happening, but you still have concerns as far as Arunachal is concerned. What is the one recommendation policy-wise you would make to the central government as far as Arunachal is concerned? Quickly, 30 seconds, sir.
Very quickly, I would like to say, India must have a strong comprehensive policy to deal with the China along the border. We must take the photocopy of the Chinese comprehensive policy along the border. Number one, China construct, rebuild all the villages along the border from Walong to Galwan with RCC buildings and all. They come with RCC bridges and permanent roads and infrastructure. They inhabit populations in no man's land. The same thing should be adopted by Government of India, that along the border, villages must be well equipped with medical, education, road, and their houses must also be constructed. If Vikram Singh Sahab, remember, after 62, in Arunachal Pradesh, all the village youth and the citizens were engaged home guard. Firing practices has been given, medical aids and all evacuation training has been given. This sort of training should be re-engaged along the border of China.
What we can,
then it will be extended on the border.
There is an extensive program for border infrastructure to be built both in Ladakh, the central sector, as well as in Arunachal Pradesh. And I think that's a great prescription to end this particular discussion with, because at the end of the day, China is still, let's face it, far ahead of us as far as border infrastructure is concerned. It's something we have a lot of catching up to do on, but we are headed in the right direction. And what the Raksha Mantri has said today, hopefully will be the beginning of better things on the frontier. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being with us on this panel. Pleasure. Thank you.